So speaking of the history of the band, can you tell us about the tartan? There was a specific Albannach Tartan, right?
I've recounted the story many times. So I'm going to I'll let you take the lead on your memory of
how it all happened, how the Albannach Tartan came about. Well, now we're talking about Clan Andrumma, so we'll just rewind all the way back. This is how it all happened. They had their own Clan Andrumma tartan, which I wore, and then when we had the big rift, the big fallout, I, out of decency and respect, contacted our handler at Ardbeg Whisky, a wonderful man called Hamish Torrey. Proper gent, proper Morningside Edinburgh gent. I just loved being in his company. And I said, look, there's been a fallout in the band and whatnot, but I've got to go and play some shows because there's work coming in and they don't want to do it, but I'm doing it. Do you have a problem with me wearing the Ardbeg Tartan? And he said, yeah, I would prefer you don't. So that put me on the spot right away.
And this is the Ardbeg Tartan you have on.
This is Ardbeg Tartan, but it's not the one.
Not the one you had.
That Clan Andrumma
got it.
Was wearing back then. I do believe I've got some of it left in the house. This is a different one. We got these ones for going and doing Whiskey Live events.
Right.
And a wonderful time. And it just put me on the spot. And if I was to meet Hamish now, I'd say thank you. Because it made me think outside the box. All right, I've got to go and get a tartan. I've got to think for myself. I ended up going up to Inverary, right up there where the big castle is, the Duke of Argyll. And I went to a wee shop called Longshanks. Now, if you're familiar with Inverary, there's the famous jail. Everyone goes to the jail. And then just to the side of that, there was this wee tartan shop, wee kilt maker. I wouldn't say tartan shop, he was a kilt maker, like you. Okay. And I went in there and explained my situation, and he said, well, I could make you this or I could make you that. He says, but I just had a pipe band back out of taking a bail. You know that story, don't you? I'll sell you this for a song. You'd be helping me out. So we walked down the street a bit, and right on the side of Loch Fyne, beautiful. And we go into this wee kind of, like, it looked like a byre, a barn or something, And here he had this big bale of Finn Lagan tartan. And I liked the look of it. It was very rustic in colour. And I thought, well, that's what we're all about, but nothing too flashy and sharp. Yeah. That'll do me. And the price was great because he was wanting out a wee hole. And that was how we got that tartan. Fast forward like 2 years and we've been on the road in America. These plaids we were wearing took a battering, they're falling apart, they stink, So I go back up to Redshanks and I go in, and here the wee fella's died. Oof. The wee fella's away, but his family are still running the shop. It's still there to this day. And I said, hello, I says, blah, 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 James A. Band Albannach. I need a new bale of the Finn Lagan. And she just came out with this astronomical price. And I says, wait a minute. I says, a couple of years ago it was this. She went, no, that's the price now. If you want another bale of it, you better take another mortgage out, I was like, oh, no. And I went away. I think we might have had some heated discussion. I might have had to leave Inverary in a hurry, before the locals mobbed me. And it wasn't long after that I met you. And yep. I told you that very story, and you said, what are you talking about, James? You should have your own. You should have an Albannach Tartan. And then it wasn't up until that point. I was like, I do believe I want an Albannach Tartan. I should have an Albannach Tartan. But I know nothing about Albannach Tartan or how to make one, And you schooled me on how to do it all, and that's basically how it came about. It was a big learning process for me because obviously I am Scottish and everything, and there's kilts everywhere, and you can go to the football games and blah blah blah, but you have no idea what goes into making a tartan, producing a tartan, designing a tartan, cutting through all the red tape, getting the green light on that tartan, and that's why it's very handy knowing someone like you, you know. So
I do my best for you, sir.
I brought that project to you, and then you ran with it and said, "What's your ideas?" And I gave you the ideas, and you said, "Leave it with me." And then an email came in or something, and you had designed this tartan, and I was like, "Wow!" And
Yeah.
you were right there with all my ideas. You just took it all out of my head, cleaned it up a lot, put a little bit of professional polish on it.
I wish we still had the original one that you mocked up and gave to me.
Maybe I don't want to see that.
Oh, you probably don't. You probably don't. It was one of those where I was just like, oh, let me help you, please let me help you. And you're like, yeah. I'm glad you did it. Like, and I like working with you, and I like engaging in these kind of things, and whether it's you or somebody else and helping people design tartans. I love that process of it. So in taking what's in someone else's brain and poof.
Aye, that's a good way of putting it. From a musical standpoint, so it's like working with a good music producer. You can go into the studio and say, I've got this idea for a tune, for a song, and I want to put all this in the background and have all these effects, and I want it to feel like this. That's why you work with certain producers, because they can take it all out of your head, have you play the instruments, and then they can bring your idea to life. And it was the same thing. I had this idea, pretty messy idea, but you said, no, I get you, I understand you, and this is how we're going to do it. Yeah. And then I seen it, but I had no idea what goes into it. I had no idea all the red tape that's out there, and how you actually do need, to get in line with someone like Rocky here and get in line with USA Kilts, because you're not going to be able to do it yourself. And who are you kidding?
That's very kind of you. Thank you. I will say there's not as much red tape as you may actually think. As far as the design process, there's several tartan design programs online. We have one on our website, but you can, it's just a matter of like playing around with the colors, and you have to have a bit of an eye for it, a bit of penchant, if you will. But the red tape, so to speak, comes in if you're going to get it registered, making sure that it's an original design, making sure that you have the right to call it what you're calling it. In your case, Albannach is the name of your band, so yes, you have the right to call it that. And then there's the hurdles of making sure, and I won't say hurdles or red tape. I'll say it's potholes in the road of knowing like what size to make the set, or an acceptable size to make the set. And knowing the mill, knowing which stripe you want to center, where you want the edge of the fabric to fall. You have to understand. Enough to be dangerous, but you need to know a little bit more.
You see, just that there leaves us normal people in the dust, doesn't it?
I'm the abnormal person here.
You start to go, no, where the fabrics to fall, the set, the size of this and that. No, please, Rocky, go ahead. You do that.
Yes. So it's ultimately find someone, whether it's us or somebody else, find someone that you trust who has an artistic eye for these kind of things, and who has a relationship to the mills, or knows how to do this, and then have them help you on the journey. And then in that way, you'll probably end up with a better project, or a better product, or a better tartan than just 4 equidistant stripes this way and this way, and say, there you go, that's it, call it done.
I like what you just said there, that this tartan was going to be the tartan that we were wearing on stage. So this was going to represent us. This was going to be our brand, and I'll still see Albannach fans, Nach Nation as we like to call them, turning up and being out front of stage wearing the same tartan as us. So I don't want it to look like,
like a dog's dinner.
Like a dog's dinner, aye. I don't want it to look like a dog's dinner. So did I try and do all these things? Again, we're going back to that conversation of, when you're in charge of the company or the band, you try to do everything yourself, but no, you're better delegating, you're better. And for me and Albannach, and the birthing of the Albannach Tartan was just far more easy process, smarter process, because I want to look smart. This represents me. was going to the professional.
You said birthing of a tartan, and I'm now picturing myself in stirrups. That's
nice, isn't it?
No.
And every listener has got that in their head now as well.
I apologize to everyone out there. You need to erase that. I need like the Will Smith Men in Black pen thing to erase that out of everyone's memories.
Sorry.
Stirrups.
In my kilt and stirrups.
You've already got the kilt on. Easy access, fella.
Okay, so I'm going to deliver us from this fresh hell, and why don't we show the? Why don't we show
do you guys
the?
want to actually talk about the tartan itself?
Let's bring the tartan up. There it is. Okay.
That question had been from Susan Stevenson, by the way. Thank you, Susan. And Charlie McKinney specifically asked us what made you choose the colors in the tartan. Yeah. What does it mean? Tell us about it.
What does it mean? Well, the great questions. The whole vibe, the whole feel of Albannach is pride and passion. You know, we're selling Scotland here, you know, very, very proud of it. It's warrior music. That's what I believe it is, you know. So I wanted something that was going to represent that passion and that pride in this wonderful little patch of land that we call home, you know, Mother Scotland. So in my head, I had the colours, you know, I had the greens for, obviously, if you've ever been to Scotland, you know, it's very green country, you know. I had the blues for the rivers and the lochs. I was kind of going down these avenues. Originally I did prefer the more rustic colours. Think of autumn. That's where I was going at first. But then I started saying, well, what are the colours of my country, you know, these beautiful greens and the blues. And I remember taking that to yourself, and I thought, you know, we're patriotic and people have fought for this country and people have died for this country in the name of freedom, you know. And that's when you came in to, you know, in your own with your expertise, and you started saying, yes, the red line for the blood that has been spilt in the name of freedom, a black line of remembrance. And I remember you saying all this to me, and I was just like, oh, yes, keep talking, give me more, you know. I just felt the blood surging through me, you know. We're off to war. And, you know, that's how it came about. That's how the Albannach Tartan came about. To what you're seeing now on the screen. Would it have been my first choice for a tribal band to wear? No. But when you look at the meaning of everything, all the magic that's in that cloth there, the whites and the blues for the saltire, our wonderful flag, like I was saying there, that red line for all the blood that was spilt in the name of freedom for our country, and we're still fighting for it now. The black line of remembrance, and then those purples for the heather, if you've ever been there in August. And that's what all that represents. And when I understood that from sitting down and talking with Rocky here, I was sold. And I'm very, very proud of that.
So are we. I'm thrilled and honored that you had us as part of the project, and it's, you know, it's one that I'm very proud of still to this day to be part of. So that's about it. It's a heartfelt thing. It's a, yeah. I won't say I'm getting choked up, but it's nice to hear your passion for the tartan still to this day.
Oh, aye.
I feel good knowing that I had something to do with.
Well, how many people in my country, how many people from Scotland can walk about and say they're
designed their own tartan?
Yeah, designed their own part, designer of a tartan, whatever, designed their own tartan, have a tartan associated with them.
Yeah.
There's not many. But, you know, when Albannach's gone, long dead and buried, I'll still have a big patch of this tartan on my wall, wherever I call home, wherever it be, I'll still have that tartan hanging in the wall somewhere as a reminder to, I did that, you know. So it's a great pride attached to that.
Excellent.
Great pride.
I hope you found that discussion about tartan design insightful, about the amount of meaning and symbolism that can kind of be baked into the entire process. If you want to design your own tartan, you can actually do it for free. We have a tool on our website. So if you go to usakilts.com, look up in the navigation bar for the words tartan designer. Click there and get started designing your very own tartan.